I want to break the myth in this video that everything in university is a priority. More than 1/3 of all university students take longer than 6 years to complete a 4-year degree. I want to share with you the time management tips that I use to finish my degree in 4 years with high distinctions. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 tips to help manage your time. And you can do any one of these to improve your workload. Tip number 12 is that calendars are optional. The workload in university can be insane and overwhelming, and trying to break up your time into little tiny pieces is not something I've ever found to be effective. In uni, you will never know how long a particular assessment, tutorial, or practical will actually take to finish. And once you sit down to work on it, it's important that you work all the way through it to finish it, to effectively manage your time. If you stop working on it because your calendar tells you it's now time to work on a biology assignment rather than your earth science practical, you'll just end up doing more work later that is more broken up, less focused, and usually leads to a lot of stress. I've always found it better to simply start with what needs doing first, work all the way through it till it's done, and then work on the next thing. Number 11 is don't cram for exams, because it just doesn't work, especially if we're trying to jam all of our study into one session. We need to spread it out so our brains have a chance to understand the material, which is better because if our brains can understand it, then we can worry less about trying to memorize it, because our brains actually get it. It understands the concept, so we're more likely to remember it in an exam. So even if you don't have a lot of time to study, try to space out those intense study sessions so your brain has a chance to understand the content. Tip number 10 is don't try and catch up on your required reading. In fact, I only did my reading for first year and then part of second year because I just didn't have the time. Now, I'm not saying don't do your reading, but your time is valuable, and attending lectures, practicals, and submitting your assessments on time is a higher priority than doing your reading. So read while you can, and then if you get bogged down in work and then have time to read again later, don't try and go back and catch up on that reading. Instead, jump into the readings relevant to that week's worth of content, and that way it will also be relevant to any assessments that you're working on currently. Number 9 is an empty timetable. Don't commit to every extracurricular activity that comes along, and believe me, there'll be a lot, especially in your first semester or first year when you're still trying to figure things out. Sport, clubs, community gardens, and even volunteering. I had a lot of friends that volunteered their time to help out with research, and then I watched them struggle to finish their assessments on time, or even to have enough time to study for their exams, and in some cases it led to them failing a class. I set myself the rule of only helping out if I was going to be paid for my work, and that's not because I didn't want to help, it's just that my time has value. I have value, and time is our only limited resource in university, so it's only fair that we should be compensated for it. Now that's what worked for me. You'll have to make your own choice about what activities you would like to engage in, but just try to keep front of mind the real reason you're at university, which is to get a degree, to get a job. Tip number 8 is to choose your study groups wisely. Study groups can be great if the group is on the same level. And I mean on the same work ethic level. The last thing you want is to be trying to study and then have people around you that are distracting you or goofing around. But get a group of people that want to learn, not just pass, but actually want to understand the material, then that can revolutionize not only your grades, but your entire university experience, and will probably create some lifelong friends too. Number 7 is to find your learning style. We all learn differently, and you might learn best by reading, writing, listening, or even drawing. But by figuring out your learning style, it'll help you use your time more effectively and make your time at university much easier. Tip number 6 is to take notes like a pro. Because it's important to take our notes effectively so that we not only understand our content in class, but it also makes exam preparation much easier. Now, I made a separate video on how to take notes effectively, so I'll just include the link in the description for you. Okay, my time management tip number 5 is distraction shutdown. Avoid all social media, streaming services, TV, and even the news when you're studying for exams. Once we start studying, we're priming our minds to absorb and memorize the information that we're giving it. So when we listen to or read something that's not related, we're not just taking a break from studying. Our brains are actually still trying to absorb that information and to memorize it. The best thing we can do when we're in heavy study mode is to take a break and go for a walk instead, and not jump onto a device. Number 4 is to increase our endorphins, which are neurotransmitters. They help focus and clear our mind. I would always exercise every day, and it didn't matter how bad my workload got. There were some nights I'd work till 2 or 3 in the morning on an assessment, but I still made sure I exercised every single day. Now that may just have been a 1 kilometer run around the campus or even a 10-minute walk, but take a break, grab some exercise, and get those endorphins. Tip number 3 is that attendance is your golden ticket. Go to every class, every lecture, practical or tutorial. It means that you'll have heard every word that your lecturer has to say about the content, so you'll be a big jump ahead on your study. Attendance is definitely your key to passing. Number 2 is endurance, and this is really important in university. We need to stay the whole time. So in each practical or tutorial that you go to, don't just leave halfway through or when you think you've finished your work. Stay the entire allotted time. This has a couple of great benefits. First of all, if you make sure that you stay and you get all of your work done, you'll be more effective in your time management because you won't have to leave that class and then finish the work later. You'll have already done it. Then, because you're there in class, you have access to your lecturer or your tutor to ask questions. There's no point in going home and struggling over a question in a prac or a tute when you could have just asked the question and saved yourself a whole heap of time. They are your resource. Use them effectively. The other added bonus is that your lecturer or your tutor then sees that you're attending everything and that you're staying the whole time. So they see that you actually care about this class and that you care about your grades. This means 2 things. One, they will help you out if they see that you're struggling. They're definitely more inclined to answer any questions that you have. And also, they're more likely to mark you well. It sounds silly, but if they see that you care, they will see that in your work, and that's usually reflected in your grades. My number 1 tip for time management is to complete every assessment, especially the small ones that are only worth 1 or 2%. It can be really easy to overlook these assessments if we're focusing on the big picture, but it's these smaller assessments that are related to a practical application of the content we're supposed to be learning. And by completing these assessments, it helps that content stick in our minds. It helps us understand the material, so it also makes exam preparation easier. And in fact, the cumulative effect of completing these assessments and on time usually pushes us up an entire grade level and can certainly make the difference between passing and failing. Now, the best way to complete every assessment on time is to create an assessment planner. I may not have used a calendar in university, but I always used an assessment planner for my work. So now you know the 12 tips I use to manage my overall time at university. But that doesn't explain how I successfully manage my assessment workload, which at some points reached 37 assessments due in just a 5-week period. Well, there's a process that you can follow to do the same. So if you would like to get your assessment workload under control, then watch this video next, where I explain step by step how I planned each assessment, how it worked, and how I achieved a high distinction in each one.